welcome back. So today we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to go get a new argon bottle for my welder, my TIG welder. I want to do some more. This is my small big wrench. Anybody remember the story on this wrench? I found this on the road. So free big wrench. I'm going to go get a new argon bottle because I want to do a little bit of welding probably coming up, and I don't have any gas. I used up most of my gas in this bottle when I was building my oil pan for the car. So we're going to do that today, and I'm probably going to start working on getting the engine bay and stuff put back together and get all the fluids and everything filled. So I got to do the oil coolant, transfer case fluid, transmission fluid, all that good stuff. So I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm just going to go buy this stuff, go buy all my fluids today, and then we'll get started. Alright, so we got the tank exchange done. I go to Weld Specialty. I've been using that place for like 11 years, I think, since I started getting bottles from my MIG. It was $43 to exchange the argon tank, and it's a the 80 size, 80 cubic feet. Lincoln was doing the recording, so thanks to Lincoln for doing the recording. And now we're gonna go get some transmission fluid and oil and junk from Fleet Farm. And it's like one of my least favorite things to buy is fluids, because they're expensive, and I go through a lot of them. Alright, so while we're driving, we can talk a little bit. Today's Friday. I brought the drive shaft in on Monday, and he said it was probably going to be done by the end of the week. So if he doesn't give me a text by in the next couple hours, I would assume that I would have to pick it up at the end of the weekend, which is fine. I didn't really work on the truck all week. I actually didn't touch it at all this week, so I've been kind of working on some other stuff for the channel, and I'll talk to you guys about that in a few days, hopefully. But my time was kind of wrapped up with that, so I'm going to go get all the stuff that I need. That way, I don't think I have to make any more trips to the store besides the drive shaft, and then we can just throw that thing in and then get ready to go drive it. Alright, it's been a little while since I said this, but we got some good news and we got some bad news. So the guy with the drive shaft called me, and so that's a good thing, right? But the bad news is he said he's having an issue with the shaft. So I'm going to go, actually I'm in town now, so I'm going to stop and go look at it. He's saying that the cap for the U-joint is actually spinning inside the drive shaft yoke, so he can't use that yoke. It's like loose inside the yoke for whatever reason. So we're going to go look at that thing. And he called to just ask me when he built it, because he built that shaft for me about a year ago, but I brought him the yoke, the front and rear yoke. So we're going to go check it out and try to come up with a solution, and I'll give you guys an update later. Alright guys, so just left the machine shop and talked to the guy there. I went in and he showed me the drive shaft, and I got a little video clip of it. I can actually insert it here while I'm talking. So you'll be able to see in the video that the drive shaft is actually moving inside the yoke. So the U-joint is moving back and forth inside the yoke, meaning that it doesn't have the press fit anymore, and kind of looks like the U-joint, kind of looks like the yoke actually got stretched a little bit, and said there's about 30 thousandths play back and forth. So that's not a good thing, obviously. So I would think that maybe some of the hard launching or something stretched it. I'm not sure exactly, but it's definitely not right. It was right when I bought it, but now it's not. So he's going to go ahead and get me a new U-joint and a new yoke, and then he's going to get it done and call me back. So it's going to add a few extra days to it, but glad we found it this way instead of finding it in pieces on the road and not having any idea what happened. So let's get home and get started on the truck. Alrighty, so we got a bunch of fluids here. So you got some oil, transmission fluid. This is what I'm going to use also in the transfer case, and some coolant. I just got some of the regular, oh no, it is 50-50. Okay, I guess I changed my mind and forgot. And then some of the the diff fluid for the front diff. So this is about $130 for the fluid right here. So this is like $16.99. I think this was around $3. These are about 18 bucks a piece. These were $8 a piece. And I think these were about 8 each. So that's why I say I don't really like buying fluids that much, because you go through them kind of fast, especially when you're breaking stuff like I do. And the fluids tend to add up pretty quickly. So I'll show you my little stash here. So this is what I got from, I would say about the last maybe year and a half of having fun and breaking things. And I do like to hoard these bottles. A lot of these are empty, but just as you can tell, some of the last projects like this, these Mercon 5, these were from when I did the valve body on the Explorer, and a lot of these are empty. These are all from the 4L80, and keep in mind these are like 18 bucks a piece. So that's a lot of fluid to go through, but I think I like to keep them because if you break something, it's very nice to just have some extra bottles to dump the fluid in. Alright, so I disconnected my starter wire here, and I'm gonna have to throw that thing back. I might actually clean this up because I just have my crank sensor wiring kind of taped up. Last time I broke it, I actually think I did solder this. Yeah, I think it's soldered. Then I just taped it back up, so I'm gonna have to throw that back. But then I did disconnect my main starter wire for my battery. I just had this thing looped up in the front when I put the engine in, so I did disconnect it so I can throw the starter back underneath and then get this thing back over wound underneath the other side. So I think what I'm going to start working on now is getting both the exhaust manifolds on and the crossover. So driver's side manifold, passenger side manifold, and the whole Monaco Turbinski on this side. Alright, so I'm looking at this harness, and this is my harness, and I'm just kind of looking at all the stuff that I don't really use, like the old MAP sensor wiring and all the air conditioning stuff. I have this kind of sick, twisted fantasy in my head that I'm going to actually someday use the air conditioning. So I leave all this stuff labeled in here, but I'm not using it, so I usually just tuck it away. So I'm gonna be a little bit realistic right now with what my plan is, and I'm gonna chop a bunch of these wires off. Maybe except for this big ground here. I'm gonna chop some of these wires out because I don't think I'm going to use any of them anytime soon. So
why are you doing that?
Be a realist.
Why are you doing that?
I'm gonna cut these wires out.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're gonna do this.
But why are you cutting the wires?
Because I don't need these. I'm not gonna use them. So then I'll keep this ground in here.
I thought the car needed those.
No, I'm not using them, so I'm gonna pull them out. Weight reduction, broski.
What's that big tube thing?
What big tube thing?
That you're throwing on the ground.
That's a wire loom. It protects the wires.
Wire. Yeah.
So all that other stuff is out of there. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna keep this ground, and might even. I'll just keep it. So this is normally gonna go up over here. This ground's gonna go under the back of the head, or it could go up to the front. But now I don't have this whole extra bundle, because see this whole bundle right here was coming right on the top of this. So I would always have this extra big fat wad of wires that I would kind of tuck back, and I'm not going to use them, so we'll just get rid of them. So I'm going to throw some tape around these wires, but just for good measure, what I like to do usually if I'm cutting wires, I'm going to leave them in the harness. I like to cut them and kind of leave them offset. These look like they're okay so far, but I like to kind of stagger the cuts so they don't really have any risk of, arcing or touching each other. So I'll cut them kind of all at different angles, different lengths, so that they don't really have any risk of touching. And then I'll curl them back and tape them up in the harness. So once those wires are curled back, I'm just going to tape this whole thing up. Especially now that I got it all apart and the harness is mostly out. Tape this whole thing back up. I know I keep saying I want to go through this whole harness someday. What I'd like to do is actually go through and kind of unloom the whole harness and then just run every sensor back to the ECU where I want it and make each wire its own length. So that's kind of a long-term goal I have, or maybe even just do a whole fresh harness like that. But so yeah, I got like, you know, more AC wiring and all this extra stuff that's still just tucked in here like, hey, fantasy boy, let's actually use this thing someday. Just in case, you know, because I'm just going to hook everything up just temporarily, right? I'm going to hook all this junk up, and then eventually I'm going to go back through and make it a comfortable daily driver with air conditioning and microwave, dishwasher, everything is going to be nice. But yeah, I mean, reality is we're just trying to make it go faster once in a while. And I'm more concerned about heat in the truck, to be honest, because I'm in Wisconsin, guys, obviously. So I'm putting four-wheel drive in it with the intent that I'm going to be ice racing it. And driving it in the summer doesn't really bother me that much. Even when I have I don't have air conditioning, and even when I have like the exhaust heat and all heat from the engine bay flying into the cabin because I have all this stuff open right now, it really doesn't bother me. Like driving around even when it's 90 degrees outside with the windows open and stuff, it's okay. It doesn't really bug me that much. But I like to have during the winter I like to have the defrost, just because the windows get all frosty, and I like to be able to, you know, maintain that so I can actually see. Other than that, my comfortability isn't really that big of a deal. Alright guys, so I think I'm going to make another commitment here while I'm in here. So I think what I want to do is I want to get rid of these transmission cooler lines. One reason, because I did buy some AN transmission cooler fittings that go into the transmission, so I had a plan to convert the cooler lines to AN, and I did make a mistake here when I put the engine in, because I had the cooler lines tucked over to the side on top of the control arm. Put the engine in, and cooler lines are actually supposed to go underneath the engine mount. So I think that's going to be my signal. I'm just going to chop these things out from the top side. These are loose over on this side, but I'm going to cut them on this end, and I'm going to pull these cooler lines out, and I'll get the line I need, and then use the fittings I have to convert to AN, and then I'll run it up to the front and might actually do like a nice or better transmission cooler, because I was having some issues with transmission temperature over the year. So that's not something I really talked about a whole lot, but I did have some pretty high transmission temps if I would drive it for long distance, especially like stop and go in the city, stuff like that. If I was on the highway, it would come down pretty decent, but I did see like 220, 240 transmission temps quite a bit with this transmission. So I mean, it still worked fine. It did start to buck and do some weird stuff once I hit like 240 for like an hour, but other than that, it just seemed like it didn't even phase it really. So I'm gonna cut these things and we'll get going. Oh. Alright, so I did use my wire cutter to cut the hose so someone can have an aneurysm because I did that. And then I'm gonna cut these things out, or pull them out. They're already cut. So there we go. Now that's out of the way. One small step for things. I think I'm gonna pull some of these old vacuum lines out of here too. Might as well just start yanking garbage out as long as we're down here. Still got some old vacuum lines for the vacuum locking hubs. We'll pull all that stuff out. There's a lot of old stuff down here. Just cut all this stuff out. I'll start yanking. Yankee spanky. And if I look very carefully, we have, what is this? We have a chunk of a piston ring. You guys can see that. Chunk of a piston ring that was sitting down on top of the control arm. So I'm gonna put this thing right down where it was. I like to keep them where they are, you know, just for good luck, because that piston ring has been sitting there for probably several months. And here we go, check that out. That is a chunk of a piston. So I like to leave these little good luck charms in here. My little nuggets. So as long as they're in there, maybe no more will fly out. We'll just keep them down in there. So that's how I roll. So yeah, let's get this exhaust side in there. This is for the O2 sensors. All this stuff tucked up out of the way, and then I'll grab the log and we'll muscle it in. Alright, so I actually picked this thing up to start putting this thing in there, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this old wrap off of here. This is just some old cheapo eBay wrap. This used to be black, and after plenty of heat cycles it started to turn white. You can see the whole black color on there. So I realized, or I remembered when I saw this, that I do have some wrap that I bought a long time ago sitting in these unopened boxes on the shelf. So I bought this stuff in July of 2018. It's now January of 19 right now. So I bought this stuff kind of a while ago. Might as well put it to use. I had a plan for it, just never really cared enough or had the time to do it. So let's do it before we put it in. It'll be a lot easier to do it now than when it's in the truck.
Daddy's making car parts.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, got these things unboxed now. This is actually a different color. This is the titanium color, I think it's called. Hopefully these things will last a little bit longer. We'll see. They are also the cheap eBay brand. So we'll see if it's the color thing or if it's, I don't know, whatever it is, if it's the color or the cheap material. It also does match my turbo blanket that is like falling apart, so I'm gonna get into one of those anyways, probably the same color. I like this color better than the black anyways. I'm just gonna go through and cut all this stuff off. Okay, now that I got this wrap off, I'm going to show you the No Hope Left for Humanity manifold that I got here. So basically just comes up from the crossover, got a couple pie cuts, log manifold. A lot of you guys might have seen this already. If you're new, you haven't. So it comes straight over into the pie cut from straight tubing wastegate tube, and then back over with some more pie cuts into the exhaust. So I did run the gate over into the exhaust because I did have mufflers on it, so I wanted to keep it quiet. But I think what I'm going to do this time is probably, I might keep this the same way, but I think I'm going to do the loud valve, the vacuum actuated valve on this one, and then run the mufflers. So I kind of do want to keep this like sleeper truck. So I think what I'm going to do with the truck, I've actually been debating on getting a cap for this truck, like a burgundy cap, not just a lid like bed cover, a cap on it. Because when I originally got this truck from my great-grandfather years ago, it had a burgundy cap on it, so I think I might want to go back to that burgundy cap just to add to the effect of like sleeper grandpa truck, especially with it being street tires and four-wheel drive. So, and I'm moving back onto this. This thing is actually holding up pretty well. I kind of on myself thought that this was going to crack. I'm very confident in my welds though, of course. But the way that this thing hangs, I was a little bit concerned because it's hanging horizontally out from the block. It's like straight out from the head. And I didn't have anything supporting the turbo. Even when I had the GT45 on here, that was a lot heavier than this one, the VS 7875. The GT45 is a lot heavier, so I thought I was going to have some concerns with, you know, the weight and cracking, especially with engine wobbling and hitting bumps and stuff, and, you know, but I do have this awesome patch job on there. Adds a little stability, but yeah, just wanted to show you guys that, and I'm still going to run this thing. Okay, so here is everything with the new wrap on it. I really like this color. I like this better than the black, so hopefully this stuff doesn't fade. So let's throw this thing on and see what it looks like. We'll see how this goes. Sometimes this is a bear, sometimes it goes okay. So we'll see which one it decides it wants to do this time. Alright, so I got the front and the back in, so now I'm going to go through and put the other ones in. I also had issues with the middle ones before. After I got the front and back in, I couldn't get the middle ones in. So we'll see how it goes this time. Alright. Alrighty, so everything's on now. Well, not everything, but this is on. In place. Just got to put the turbo blanket on, but I don't know, the other one's junk, so I'm going to order a new one of those, and we'll just keep continuing to button everything up. Do got a little bit of work yet, and I'm a little bit tired today, so I'm going to go in. This took longer than expected, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, so I'm going to go to bed. Thanks for watching, have a good one.